Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of an Untitled Games podcast. We got actually a special guest this week for the first time. Luke, did we do a show this year? Did we do one in the new year? I actually cannot remember if
I
this is the
can't
first
remember.
of the year or not, to be perfectly
Yeah,
honest.
can't
It
remember.
may or may not be the first show of 2024 as we get into February. I think we did one in January, mate. I think we did, but we do have a guest with us this time. Fellow co-host of the Indie Games podcast, we've got Mr. Judzilla. Judzilla, how are you doing, mate?
Good evening, gentlemen, and everybody. Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. I don't think you should be describing me as a special guest. I think we can downgrade that to just a guest. But yeah,
Oh, no, you're
I'm
a
doing
special
good.
guest,
It's
mate. You're a
great to
special
be here.
guest.
Thanks for the invite, boys.
No, good to have you on, mate. Obviously, we've not done an indie podcast in a little while, and I missed the past couple as well. So it's been a little while since we've had a good chance to have a bit of a natter about games. So
Yeah.
it's great to have you on, mate. So thank you very much for joining us. And obviously, as always, we got Mr. Luke Steele. Luke, how are you doing, mate?
Very well, thank you. Yeah. It's I mean, I was better having not seen Palworld on screen.
You know this, mate. I
Um,
got this just for you. And there's only about 40 minutes of it. I was planning on
thank
getting
God.
like a little over an hour, but
Yeah.
I just couldn't. I couldn't play it for any
Is this
longer. So.
this is on your PC as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I got it earlier today. Yeah, I just got
Oh,
it today.
God's
So
sake.
you know it is. Obviously, as you've seen on Twitter, I got my new PC, and so far I've played Halo, which I played a lot of. I've played Diablo, which I've played a lot of, and I've played Palworld. So it's one of the first three games that I've christened my
Shameful.
new PC with. So, but it's just for you, mate, because I know how excited you
Yeah.
were about Palworld, and
I was looking forward to it. Yeah.
yeah. So I got it early today. And to be honest, I had no idea what to expect because I've largely kind of stayed away from any of the conversation regarding Palworld. And I mean, ignoring everything else, it's just not my type of game. I'm not a big fan of survival games, so it's just not my type of
Yeah.
game. Even if you kind of ignore everything else, but I did grab a little bit of footage just for the show earlier today. So it was either this or actually I didn't have a chance to play it. But if Indy was going to join us, so unfortunately Indy couldn't join us. I was going to get some Go Mecha Ball. I've got that installed. I need to check that out. So I was going to call that. So maybe next time. Maybe next time. Anyway. So
I was expecting some beautiful 4K 120 frame capture. If you've got a capture card to do that, I don't know, but we get Power World and are looking at a pink guy running around hacking away at trees.
I
mean,
tell
this
you,
is
what, Juds. This is 1440p maxed out at 120 FPS. Unfortunately, no, the Game Pass version doesn't have DLSS. It's in the menu. It's just grayed out, so I can't
Right.
even take advantage of all of that. Yeah, so you can watch me kind of struggle through the opening sort of 45 minutes of Palworld. I have already uninstalled it. I'll not lie to you because I've got no
Nice.
intention of playing it again. I just wanted to get some footage specifically for Luke. I think I did say that we may have caught up after the Game Awards or sometime when they show this off. I can't remember exactly what it was, and I think I said at the time I'll have to get some footage. Thankfully, it's in Game Pass because I certainly wouldn't have purchased it
Yeah.
for this at least anyway. So yeah, so everyone else you guys don't have to watch. At least you guys can just, I guess everyone can kind of just listen, but for anyone that is watching on YouTube, they do have to watch me punch some chickens and sheep in the face until I realize that you can craft a bat. So yeah, it's a bit bizarre, and the character models are dreadful. I just randomized 10 times to get this one. I was like, spending too long on this, so I'll just pick this next one. So
that's what you came up. That was the best you could do with randomizers.
honestly,
Whatever that
this is literally the best that it gives us. It really didn't give me too many options. Obviously, vibrant pink, but some of the character models and randomized were just dreadful. So yeah, like I say, anyway, you guys don't have to watch it. If you don't want to, obviously you might be into Palworld. I don't know. Judzilla could be a closet Palworld fan. Who
definitely
knows?
isn't.
No,
Definitely
fair
isn't.
enough.
No, it's like, but it is a little bit like a train wreck. It's like you can't tear your eyes away from it. I'm astounded and also disappointed at the same time. So,
Yeah,
but
I've tried a lot to just avoid the entire conversation around it, to be completely honest, because it's just, yeah, like people go mad over it. Like it's obviously blown up, and then people are angry about the game blowing up, and then people are getting angry about people getting angry with the game blowing up. It's just like, yeah, can't be asked with that. So yeah, but thankfully it's probably the last time I played. But anyway, gentlemen, obviously here to chat a little bit about games. Since we last did a show like this, we've had a couple of big events. Xbox did a Developer Direct in early January or mid-January, whenever it was. I can't remember exactly now. And then Sony just last week had a pretty meaty state of play, to be honest. I was a little bit surprised at just how meaty it was. So I thought we could maybe touch on those things, maybe pick out some of our favorite things that were shown. But before we do that, I thought it'd be a good idea just to see what you guys have been playing. Obviously, I've been playing Palworld, or at least a little bit of it. But look, we'll start with you, mate. What have you been playing recently?
Well, I mean, the answer may surprise you to this one, because I have been playing Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League.
Interesting. Okay.
And Prince of Persia as well, I should
Nice.
add.
Yeah.
But those two mainly. Prince of Persia, I'm about 7 hours into, and I'm about 8 hours into Suicide Squad. I was just playing it just before I came on here. Both on PC. And Suicide Squad's an interesting game.
You know, it is, mate.
It's an interesting one.
I'm really surprised to hear that. You're right, because you played the beta.
I did. I did, or the alpha or whatever it was.
Yeah, obviously that wasn't a NDA originally, but then when it came out, I don't think you were overly positive.
I wasn't. I was overtly negative on it, actually. And then I didn't enjoy it very much at all. The performance was also really poor in that beta or alpha on PC. And then I kind of started thinking about it again, and then saw some additional footage, and I just thought, you know what, actually, the story was good in the beta. It was kind of the stuff around it, and I was like, I don't mind spending the money to experience the story, if I go into it with my eyes open, which I was doing, you know, and so I went back into it, and I was like, okay, just imagine this is The Division, but in the DC universe, and that's actually helped quite a lot in terms of enjoyment. Trying to kind of purge yourself of thinking about it as a Rocksteady game almost. Yeah. If you go into it thinking, well, this is a bit like The Division / Destiny, but with just a fundamentally better story, better narrative, it's actually enjoyable. It's not amazing, like it's a real come down for Rocksteady in terms of their record.
Yeah,
but it does have some quality in it, particularly, as I say, in the story, in cutscene direction. And actually, the moment-to-moment gameplay is very fun. It kind of reminds me of it's a bit like Doom Eternal mixed with Vanquish. That's kind of what it feels like. This kind of, you know, very fast-paced, quite high skill ceiling, third-person shooting. So it's the PC port is not great. It's kind of, yeah. I mean, it's you know, it's Unreal Engine 4. It suffers from stutters because, of course, it does. They are annoying. I've had worse stuttery games, but these ones are quite annoying. The general frame rate is pretty high, except if you enable RT. It has ray trace reflections, and they just absolutely murder performance. Like, and the weird thing is that they murder performance on the CPU, not on the GPU.
Okay,
so
that's weird.
If you like put ray tracing on, for example, and let's say you've got DLSS quality on, then you'll get let's say you get like an average of 80 FPS, or a bit lower, let's say 70. if you then drop to like ultra performance, right? So you're really dropping internal resolution in DLSS. You don't get any performance improvement at all. You get like a frame extra. Um, so it's not well optimized for ray tracing at all. I don't know what has happened there, but I think they clearly need to fix it. Um, so much so that actually I'm playing with DLAA on, which is native resolution, but just with anti-aliasing applied to all geometric detail. And that is as performant as DLSS ultra performance, like, DLSS 2 ultra performance. So like there's no real difference depending on whether you're running a native res or, as long as you're running something, it performs about the same. If you turn all of that stuff off, obviously performance can drop. But it's a very strange port. They need to sort it out. But it's playable, but I guess it depends on your tolerance for stutters as well, because the stutters are quite significant sometimes. But I mean, I'm getting through it. I'm enjoying it. It's quite surprising, but it's one of those games where I see people giving it like a 4, and then I see people giving it like an 8, and I'm like, I completely understand both of those scores.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I didn't expect you to even picked it up after your impressions of the alpha, but it's interesting how you've kind of maybe come around a little bit on the game. And honestly, I think the reviews, I think it came in a little higher than I expected, to be honest, because I think the game's kind of been clowned on a little bit, maybe a little bit too harshly or wrongly so. But yeah, I was expecting it to get a little bit more hate than I think it did, just because a lot of the pre-release stuff was, people just on everything that they'd kind of done. And obviously the switch from Arkham to this. Obviously the performance stuff doesn't surprise us. I think every time we talk about a new PC game, Luke, it's always a case of the performance isn't great, or the stutters, especially with Unreal games, or it's a bad port, which is a bit of a shame, really. Is it on Steam? I assume.
Yes. It is. Yeah. And it's frustrating. I mean, Rocksteady had previous with this, because obviously they did the Arkham Knight PC port, which was probably one of the worst PC ports ever made. It was absolutely dreadful. And this is a significant improvement on that, but it's still not great. And it really annoys me, actually, because like you see, studios like CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk, and then Remedy with Alan Wake 2, and even Ubisoft Massive doing Avatar, and these games come out and they're all like super cutting edge tech games, and their PC ports are excellent, like demanding but fairly, but in a fair way, right? Because they're pushing lots of ray tracing and stuff like that. And they're just exceptional ports, and then with no or very very little stutter, and then you get this, which is just from an equally big developer, really, and it's a bit shit. So part of that is Unreal Engine. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is on PC,
which is bizarre, considering it's like the most popular game engine, it seems, that it's being used, or at least certainly up there. So you would have thought maybe they would have done something to help address that. And I think obviously all this is even, I was going to say funny, and that's probably the only term that comes to mind, considering your rig. It's not like you're seeing any performance issues and you've got like lower end hardware or anything like that. You've got like top end. So like really, you shouldn't be seeing any performance issues. But yeah, that's a bit of a shame.
You can't power through that stutter. You could be 5 generations from now, that stutter would still be there. It's really annoying.
Yeah, Juds, are you going to be checking out Suicide Squad out of interest, mate? Is it a game that interested you? Were you a fan of Rocksteady's previous work?
Interesting. It's an interesting topic. So Rocksteady's work, I'm a fan of their work. The Suicide Squad stuff, I've been quite intrigued, because if you take aside all the stuff about live service and all this, and the lore of how the characters should act, because look, I'm not a massive comic fan. I don't know all the back history. My brother, he could start a shop from what's in his attic. It's unbelievable the stuff he's got, and he'll just school me on, the character wouldn't do this or should do. I'm like, I don't care. Is it any good to play? So this also happened with what was was it the Marvel game that
Yeah, the
came
Avengers
out?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I played through the single player story. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was okay.
Mm.
Suicide Squad, I think I'd probably enjoy a single player experience without any concern about what the character should and shouldn't be doing. Because it looks fun. You know, you see some compilations of some of the combat and flying around and all that. It looks fun, but yeah, I don't think it's something I'm going to pick up. Um, like everyone, my backlog is absolutely enormous. So I'm gonna leave it for now and see if it gets a reduction or comes on Game Pass. It's not something I'd run out
Mm.
to buy, I don't think. Interesting to hear Luke's as you said, he was quite negative about it. And the shader compilation stuff, I think that's what it is in Unreal 4. I think
Yeah, correct.
they basically said we'll fix it in 5, and I don't think they have fixed it in 5 100%, to
Yeah,
be honest. But yeah,
I
it's
think it's
fundamental to the
improved,
code, isn't
but
it?
yeah, I think it's improved in 5, but five's still early doors, so relatively.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll, something like Hellblade will be a good test for this to
Yeah.
see how
Yeah.
that, if it suffers from similar problems or not. Um, but yeah, I think I suspect that this will be reduced in price relatively quickly. It's I mean, at least on the Steam numbers have not been good at all for
Yeah.
this.
I
Like
was
half
surprised.
of the Avengers game, something
Yeah.
like that.
It just,
Um,
I did see someone post it seemed to be pretty high on the most played list in the US on the PlayStation Store. I don't know how
yeah.
accurate kind of those listings
Uh,
are or what metrics it use, but it did seem pretty high on there. But yeah, maybe not the
Should have put
best
crafting
launch.
in it.
Yeah,
Base building, crafting, and
Pokemon
Pokemon.
should be able to capture a little mini Joker, right?
Yeah. Wait,
Something,
I'd buy that.
something like
10 million.
that.
That's an easy 10 million copy seller. That.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out because the game does seem like they're going to support, like they announced pretty hefty like post launch support. So it might be a game that maybe picks up steam over time. You know, as people
Yeah.
kind of get into it, we'll see. But it's probably not something I'll be checking out. To be perfectly honest, I didn't have an awful lot of interest in it. Anyway, so I think I'll probably give that one a bit of a skip. So, yeah, Juds, have you been playing anything? Or you mentioned just before the show, obviously you've been a little bit injured as of late, which is
Yes.
you've been able to put some game time in. So, what have you been checking out?
Yes, I've been injured, unfortunately. You know, I don't like to talk about it. But yeah, had a bit of a leg injury there for a minute. So I've been sort of like a little bit immobile over the weekend. But yes, you guys know me. I'm a bit of a racing fan. Should I say I'm addicted to racing games? So I've been playing a lot of Forza Motorsport.
Nice.
F123 just dropped on Game Pass, completed that. I'm still playing. I can't stop playing. But interestingly, there's a game I was going to talk about on the next indie podcast. So this kind of a hybrid sort of take on a game, which is also on Game Pass, called Lamplighters League, which
Okay, yeah,
I think has been criminally undervalued because I am seriously addicted to this. The reason it's a hybrid is because obviously Harebrained Schemes, they're indie again, but they've been under Paradox for I think 4 or 5 years under their publishing, so they haven't really been an indie studio, but they are an indie studio again, which they started out as. So I'm kind of counting that as like a hybrid. I could talk about on Indies podcast, but it's an absolutely amazing game. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I do, and it's taken such a long amount of time of my game time with the racing games. It's really fantastic. Get you. Oh, I'm just getting too excited talking about it, but it's got a really good story. The characters in it are good. You know, the all the mechanics are really nicely fleshed out, and I'm just shocked that it got little to no publicity and little to no critical acclaims. It's really good fun. So
yeah.
that's kind of been me over the past few weeks.
Nice. You know what it is? I do remember seeing that when they announced it because, as you said, it came to Game Pass. If I remember rightly, Jess, it's kind of like it's like turn-based strategy type of
Yeah.
game, isn't it? Kind of like Gears Tactics, that style.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought it looked good. I never end up checking it out though. It's just one of those games, that I think just got kind of lost in what was last year, which was obviously pretty busy. And I think the unfortunate thing is I'm pretty sure Paradox came out afterwards, and I think financially, I don't think it did particularly well for them. I can't remember exactly what they said. Something's ringing a bell. Where basically they said, "Look, that's they kind of had to write off maybe some of the development costs or something because the initial sales period just wasn't good for them, which is a bit of a shame."
It's a massive shame, honestly. I think from reading on the Harebrained website, um, they're basically saying that there's a couple of games that they don't own the IP to anymore. BattleTech, Shadowrun, they're still part of Paradox, but I think reading between the lines, they would really love to work on Lamplighters League. So hopefully they may get it in a future deal or something. But yeah, I would definitely go and check it out if you're into that sort of game, and even if you're not, give it a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of time to warm up, but the progression in it's fantastic. So yeah, really good fun.
Nice. Yeah, you know what it is, mate. I might have to check that out. You're the first person I've spoken to that's actually played it. So, I've never really heard anyone actually talk about it, and, and certainly not in a positive light. So that's good. Yeah, might have to check that out to be honest, because I do quite enjoy the type of game. Like I say, it kind of just got lost, I think, in what was 2023. So, have you been playing anything else, Juts, or has that been taking up most of your time alongside your racing games?
That's been taking up most of the time. I've been playing Spirit of the North, indie game. I can't remember who develops it now, but effectively you play a fox. Year of the Fox, as we had a couple of years ago. Every game had a fox in it, and you play also alongside a spirit fox. It's a little bit strange to try and describe, but it's not really. It's kind of a walking simulator for foxes, I guess. But it's quite relaxing, quite chilled, Um, and after the state of play and Luke's exuberance, I'm potentially gonna try Death Stranding again on the PC.
Nice.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll get onto that later, though. I guess.
See, there's a game, Scott. You can test.
You know it is
on
actually
the old rig.
Look, I'm not going to lie to you. I did think of that because I did try it on my laptop, and it did look good even on my laptop. I mean, it made it sound like a friggin' jet engine, but it did look good on that.
Couldn't contain all that Kojima goodness. That's what it was. Struggling.
The only thing is obviously I could buy it. Obviously, I don't think the Game Pass I think the Game Pass version's like lacking in features again, like DLSS.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't come with the most recent update that came with it. So it could be one to check out actually, because regardless of anything else I might think of that game, it does look bloody good. I can at least give it that. So
I did start it on Game Pass on the PC. I think my brother bought it, and then it came on Game Pass on the PC, and he's like, "Oh, it's on there now if you want to play it." So I have actually started it, Luke. So
nice.
Forgive me, but I can't remember why I didn't continue playing it, because I was intrigued at the beginning. It's not too weird at the beginning, and the environments and everything looks absolutely beautiful with all your detail and that cranked up. It looks fantastic. So yeah, more on that later.
Yeah, I found the beginning really slow, and it really put me off.
It is quite slow.
Yeah, like just massive amounts of cutscenes and long, boring walks. And it's funny, I've heard a lot
settle in for those walks. They're gonna get longer.
I've heard a lot of people talking about Death Stranding since the state of play, and like a lot of people have said, like you've got to stick with it. If you stick with it, like you'll be rewarded. But I think everyone kind of agrees and accepts that those early parts are a bit difficult, and well, not difficult, but they can be maybe a bit of a slog. You might
mainly cutscenes,
like 25-minute cutscenes or something stupid like that.
Yeah,
right. Like they're just humongous. It's like a full episode. So
I think once you I think maybe 2-3 hours in, after that's kind of the end of that slog, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. That's probably
so you do have
just where I got to. I think I got like 2 or 3 hours in.
It's not a slog for me. I loved every second.
No.
But like I can kind of contextualize why that would be a slog for some people. Because it is very cutscene heavy at the beginning, especially, and you go out, you do like 5 minutes of gameplay, and then you've got like another 5-minute cutscene.
Yeah.
So
I know.
Get past that, and then. But yeah, I'm gonna say if you don't like walking, don't play the game. Because the game, that is the game. I mean, there's more to it than that, but you are a porter. You're going to be delivering stuff, which means
Yeah.
you will be walking.
Yeah,
Um,
I might actually check that out to be fair, even if just to see how it looks, and maybe see if I can get any further through, and then maybe we'll see. But
I,
it's one of
I,
those things where it's just like it's too many games again
yeah.
to go back there,
Oh,
you know.
I was going to suggest as well for the rig, something like Ratchet and Clank,
Ah,
the
yeah,
new one.
good shot actually. Yeah,
Just a great game anyway, but as a test of technology, I think it's spectacular. So great PC port as well.
yeah. There are a few games that I kind of want to get just for the sake of seeing
Yeah.
how it looks, you know, and obviously some of those games, you know, like Ratchet and Clank, and we spoke about before, like Returnal. I've not
Oh
had a
yeah,
chance
God, what a game.
to play, so it's, you know, I'll be playing for the first time. Yeah, one game that I did want to touch on maybe before we touch on anything else. Luke, you mentioned it earlier on. I completed Prince of Persia in the past week or so. I can't remember how long ago it was. How long did you say you were in on that one, Luke?
About 6 hours or so.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, it's a fairly long game, I would say, particularly
Yeah.
For that genre. Judd's is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown a game that interests you at all, mate?
I was actually really surprised by the positivity on it. Not because I thought it was going to be bad. I didn't pay attention much, I guess, in the first place. Looks awesome. My only concern is with my and Indy's not here yet, so whether he is back or not, he's just arrived.
Yeah,
There he is.
and he's in the chat, so you got to be
He's in
careful.
the chat. Yeah, you say his name 3 times, he turns up behind your shoulder. You know, I won't finish that joke just a little bit. Anyway, yeah. So I didn't really pay too much attention to it, but with I got stuck on Hollow Knight, and this is just call me a bad gamer.
Oh
I
man,
don't
I've
care.
still not completed Hollow Knight, man. I'm about 25 hours into Hollow Knight or something. I don't
Yeah,
know
I've got
where I
some
am.
hours in it. But there's a technique you have to do, and I think it's a downward jump where you jump on spikes and you can
Yes.
not die. Yeah, I can't do it. I don't know what's wrong with me. And he's like, "Get on with it, just do it, you muppet." I'm like, "I can't do it. I can't do it. Just keep dying." And it's like so frustrating. Like the normal dying in these sort of games is not an issue. That's kind of the whole point, isn't it? So, but yeah, less about my Hollow Knight woes and inadequacies. But I was fearing it's going to be the same for that because even Rand is like, this is really difficult in some sections. You have to get the jumping and the what's the platforming mechanics absolutely
Yeah.
dead on. So be interesting to hear from Luke if that's the case or whether he found it relatively straightforward. But it looks awesome, especially from Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very good. It's
Yeah.
very, very good.
I would say maybe just to maybe because I've completed the game. It took us about 20 hours, I think, and I think that was like 60% completion. So there's still an absolute boatload left for me to do. So I guess when I say completed, I mean I hit the credits. The one thing I will say, Juds, and as someone who shares similar Hollow Knight wars, it's a lot less. It is difficult, but I think it's a lot less punishing. And I
Yeah,
think it's
definitely.
got a few really good accessibility options, which help with some of the more difficult traversal or puzzle mechanics. Because some of them can be pretty difficult, where you've got to go through quite a
Mm.
lengthy section and you've got to nail everything perfectly to get to the end. And it can be pretty tricky. But I think that was probably my favorite part of the game. Is just the movement of it's really cool and the way
Yeah,
it
it's
kind of
good.
ramps up. And I know Indy's in the chat there. What I will say this game does that Hollow Knight doesn't is if you get beat by a boss, you can just click retry boss and you just respawn
Yeah,
straight
it's
to the
quite
boss
nice.
and you can just fight the boss again. And honestly, that was actually one of my biggest frustrations with Hollow Knight, and this does away with that, thankfully. And yeah, it does some really cool stuff. I really enjoyed it. Big surprise to be honest. I mean, I thought it looked great in the trailers, but for it to kind of land the way that it did was still a bit of a surprise. And yeah, it was kind of the year starting with a bit of the bang.
Yeah, you say it's
Yeah.
got some helpful features to help you get through it. Unless it's putting Indy in an Uber and delivering him to my house to play those sections, I think I might struggle. But yeah, I think it's definitely one I'll be looking at in the future. Um, but like we keep saying, the backlog is punishing and it's only getting bigger. So
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, this year's kind of started off pretty heavy already. Obviously I played Prince of Persia, I completed Alan Wake 2, completed Dave the Diver
Mhm.
so far this year. I've just made a start on Persona 3 Reloaded. I really want to pick up Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Um, yeah, so it's already kind of started as last year left off, I think, a little bit, and the year's looking pretty good. But I think that's probably a nice little segue into kind of what Microsoft and Sony showed off recently about a lot of games which are coming this year as well. So earlier in the month, we'll start with the Xbox Developer Direct. Not too much there. Obviously, um, it's a show that focuses on a small number of games. They did a similar thing last January. Obviously, we had the Hi-Fi Rush Shadow Drop at the time. What else did they show off last year? There was Forza, Hi-Fi
Yeah.
Rush.
Uh,
I can't remember what else was
yeah, I
there.
can't. Yeah,
To
it's
be honest,
too long ago now.
yeah, I think when I kind of compared the two, the way I looked at it is I thought this year's was better overall in terms of the game they showed, but last year I think kind of because it had that Shadow Drop of Hi-Fi Rush, which ended up being one of my favorite games of the year, kind of
Yeah.
like it really had that shine, which I think this one didn't have. So obviously they showed off Avowed, Hellblade 2 got a release date, Visions of Mana from Square, Indiana Jones, obviously, and which is the one I'm forgetting. There's one more. Ara History Untold
Yeah.
was the other one. So I actually quite like the format of the show. Obviously, it's a little
Yeah.
scripted. You can tell it's a little edited, but I actually really like the format. I really enjoyed it last year, and I think they've done a good job to stick with it. This year, and like I said, I thought the games this year were a little. I thought were better than last year's show. To be honest, obviously the big one was Indiana Jones. Everyone's looking forward to that. I think caught people a little bit by surprise when they announced it, because I think not a lot of people were expecting it maybe to hit in 2024, because we'd seen absolutely nothing of it prior to this show. So I thought we'll start with that. Luke, obviously, I think you were looking forward to seeing that. I think you're a big fan of Machine Games as well, if I'm not mistaken. So what did you think?
Yeah, I thought generally, I thought it looked good. I'm a bit like I wasn't as high on it as other people. I think for a couple of reasons. Not because I don't like the it feels very faithful to early Indiana Jones, which is fantastic. Big fan of Indiana Jones. I really appreciate that. So in terms of tone, they nailed it. I think the area. I mean, I was a little disappointed it was first person. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's
Um,
obviously the big thing from a lot of people, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. I just think Indiana Jones is just ripe for a proper action adventure. And if you're going to do action adventure, I think third person is absolutely the best thing or the best way to do it, particularly when you have an iconic character as the person you're playing as. Um, but that's by the by. I can probably get over that because machine games are very good. But that was the main disappointment. I thought visually it was disappointing for me, or not disappointing, but I was slightly underwhelmed by it. It's a nice looking game. I just sort of thought, Machine Games making a current gen only game on id Tech, I really expected it to, you know,
Yeah,
blow me away. And I didn't think that it looked any better than like Wolfenstein 2, for example. I thought it looked maybe about the same. Um, Obviously, it's not in front of me, so I can't judge it fully. And it also had a bit of visual inconsistency in that trailer. So some bits looked really good, and then other bits kind of looked a bit average. So I suspect that's probably just the nature of the builds they're capturing and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I'm not too concerned. I'm sure when it hits, the screen, it will look good. Um, Other than that, I thought it looked really good. They're going for it. It reminded me, and people commented on it afterwards of stuff like the Chronicles of Riddick,
yeah,
which is I mean, a lot of the staff at Machine Games were Starbreeze people, so had input on that game. And it that was a great game. And this looks really good as well. The only thing I hope they improve just generally is, I think, from Wolfenstein 2 is the level design in Wolfenstein 2 was really not very good. Kind of gave me headaches. Actually, it was a bit confusing, not very well laid out, and that's the one thing I hope they improve on, just in terms of their general development for this game in particular. Other than that, I thought it looked really nice. I'm really looking forward to it, and it's a big surprise it's coming this year still. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I think because it was announced, Christ, just a couple of years ago, obviously with that very small tease with the whip and stuff on
Yeah.
on the table. So I think people kind of thought it was years out, but it has been a good few years since Machine Games obviously released the last Wolfenstein game. I think so.
Mm.
I guess in that context, it doesn't seem too surprising. I think obviously it remains to be seen whether it actually hits. As they didn't put a firm release date. I think did they just put fall 2024? I think
maybe it may have only been 2024 actually.
Yeah, it might have been to be fair. So it remains to be seen if it does hit. Obviously, I hope it does. So I hope people like. I'm not a big Indiana Jones kind of guy, to be honest, but I think even as someone who not a big fan, I could even tell from the trailer that they absolutely nailed sort of the feel and the vibe of Indiana Jones. I was surprised that they got the likeness of Harrison Ford, a young Harrison Ford. To be honest, I didn't. I don't. Well, to be fair, I didn't really think of it beforehand, but it was just a little bit of a surprise. I thought maybe they would have gone for maybe a more original design or something. And yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see where it lands. Judd, are you a big Indiana Jones fan?
I am actually. Yeah, this is an interesting one for me. I think myself and probably a lot of people went into this one with kind of a lot of preconceptions about what it should be, and that's fair enough. The third person, first person thing, yeah, I was kind of split honestly, both ways, which I would prefer. On one hand, you can say, well, we don't need another Lara and Uncharted clone, and maybe they're doing it differently because of that. On the other hand, like Luke said, you expect it in this type of game, so that's interesting. The design of the game looks really good. Graphically, I get what Luke's saying again about being slightly underwhelmed. For me, again, it's a preconception of what you're expecting. It's slightly more stylized than something like a Last of Us or something like that. A little bit, only a little bit. I'm looking at it now because someone could have got this footage for everyone to look at. Instead, we're looking at Power World. So I'm on another I'm on another tab looking at the Indiana Jones trailer. But yeah, so but I thought it looked brilliant. And the thing for me about Indiana Jones and what I was actually hoping for with being such a great developer as Machine Games is that they captured the essence of indie. And I was saying to my brother, the more the trailer, but the more the segment went on, the more sort of excited I was getting more into it, thinking, oh, they've absolutely nailed this series. And they put it between Raiders and is it Temple of Doom on
Yeah,
the
I think that's
timeline?
right.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, it's going to be an original story, which is going to be great. But for me, I think there's far too much judgment, on the first showing of stuff with everything. It doesn't have to be Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo. It just happens. And I said to my brother, they know what they're doing. We thought that of Redfall, to be fair. That was the other game you couldn't remember at Developer Direct last year. Probably
Yeah.
unsurprising.
PTSD.
So what? There was four. Hold on, let's even get it right. So there was Forza, Redfall, Hi-Fi Rush, Minecraft Legends.
Minecraft
Was the other one?
ESO.
Uh,
Elder Scrolls
I think
Online?
they did their own thing again afterwards, didn't they? So, yeah, Redfall. Oh man, Christ, Redfall, poor Redfall.
Poor Redfall. Bless him.
Yeah.
Bless him. So you kind of
sympathy
fall
for
into that
Redfall.
trap, I guess, of, oh, so and so doesn't miss. Well, okay, actually they can miss. But I think on this occasion with Machine Games, I don't think they're going to miss, having seen what we've seen of it. I can't wait to play it, and honestly, I want to feel what it feels like to play the game in first person. If they get it right, I think it's going to blow people away. If it's a little bit janky, I think that could be an issue. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really excited for it, mate. Honestly, I really am excited for it. And this year, they just said 2024 on the release.
Was it just 2024? So
Yeah,
so I haven't got
yeah,
that locked in just yet. But if it is going to be this year, it is going to be late in the year. I think that's
yeah,
that's fair to say. So yeah, it's interesting. We talk about the first and third person thing. That was obviously the big thing that people spoke about going into the
yep.
direct. BMG's put in the chat a little bit earlier. Obviously, Machine Games kind of specialize in first person games. So I guess from that perspective, it doesn't come as too much of a surprise. I understand obviously what you are both saying. What I will say is I thought in particular the whip combat or the way that he utilized the whip in first person, I did think looked pretty good. They showed off being used to swipe legs or just pull enemies towards you, obviously for traversal. So yeah, I guess it's not too much of a surprise with it being Machine Games, but then I also look at kind of other developers in the past that have made that transition from first to third, and I look at like the main one that comes to mind is like Guerrilla going from like Killzone to Horizon. And obviously they made that that first to third transition pretty well, it seems. So it would have been interesting to see them maybe try and go in that direction, similar to what I guess Arcane I think they did announce that Blade was going to be third person, so they're obviously making that transition from they're typically first person, but they're going to be going third person for Blade. So yeah, so it's interesting. It's going to be good to see where it lands when it comes out. But I think, like I say, even as someone who's not honestly a big fan of Indiana Jones, I enjoyed what they showed. Obviously the puzzle mechanics, the combat, things like that. Obviously the story is going to be a big part of it. I guess do you guys have any sort of expectations for the story side of things? Because I was listening to some people talk about some of the stories from some of the Indiana Jones movies that I haven't seen, and I didn't realize it got that fucking weird, man. I didn't realize it got that weird in Indiana Jones.
I want at least 5 aliens in this game.
Yeah. Do aliens are aliens in Indiana Jones? Like
they're seriously? In one Indiana Jones.
They're in one of them, right? Yeah. That was one of them talking about,
which
and
is
I was like, what?
The universally derided one.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
So maybe we won't see aliens then, if that's
no. I would hope they would avoid aliens. Although I said this, I can't remember where I said it, but I said it's funny how people will completely reject aliens, yet they will wholeheartedly accept a magic sarcophagus from God that shoots out lightning in the first film. So it's slightly hypocritical at that point. But I see people's points. But I mean, in terms of my expectations, I think don't do Temple of Doom because it's a fucking horrid racist film now. Even though it's entertaining. Just if it's like Raiders, then that would be ideal.
Yeah.
Or Last Crusade. But it just needs to be just good Indiana Jones, early, like first 3 film style Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I think that's all it needs to be.
If it's in the mold of the what I would call the original trilogy, the original and best trilogy, then I think they're going to get it right. From what Todd Howard was saying, they went to it's a Disney property, isn't it?
Yeah. It's Lucasfilm.
They went there and said, they were blown away with what we'd come up with. And certainly the trailer, like I said, the more I watched it, the more I felt like, wow, this is actually a proper, Indiana Jones. I was going to say film then, but it's not a Kojima game, is it? So story.
Oh, it could be both.
It could be both.
Yeah.
But it's a really good point about the first person and the whip, because half of the fun, I think, of this game is if they can nail that mechanic. And like you said, they've got traversal with it. There's some stealth stuff. There's grabbing people's legs with it and knocking them over. I thought that was quite funny. So yeah, if they get that right and the essence of the story correct, I think it could be the start of a few in the series on Xbox for them.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the stealth thing. That was the one bit that I thought was a bit weird, using a whip for stealth. Just like imagine kind of if you're in, I don't know, a pyramid or whatever they are, and all you hear is a whip crack, and you're like, huh? What? And then you just like, I just get like original Metal Gear Solid vibes, where kind of like you just got the dumb AI just walking around in circles, chasing the knocks. So yeah, that was the only bit I thought was a bit weird. I can't see a whip being used for stealth, but hey, I guess that's what they've gone for. Yeah. So we also had, what else did we had? We had Avowed. Probably not. I don't need to talk about that one too much. I did think it looked better. Obviously, it got confirmed that one was fall 2024. I think. Visions of Mana, which I thought was a bit of a weird.
Weird.
Yeah, like
shadow drop game to put in, not as in a shadow drop into the show.
Just the surprise. Yeah, because I think just with it not being first party, I think that was it just didn't seem like it fit. To be honest, especially with the Hi-Fi Rush, did. I didn't necessarily expect a shadow drop in the same vein that we did with Hi-Fi Rush, but it did just feel like it didn't fit quite right. But I imagine that's maybe just part of Xbox and Square Enix kind of getting friendly again. Like maybe they said, look, we'll include you in one of our first party shows, just to show that we're the best of pals again. Hellblade 2 finally got a release date. Trailer May 31st, if I remember correctly. Also a few little tidbits dropped about that. What was it? Obviously it's going to be a shorter game, so they said similar to the first game. So what about the 8-hour mark? It's going to be digital only. It's going to be not necessarily full price as well. I think it's going to be $50. And then what else did they show? I'm missing one. Which one was it? Ara again. Yeah. It is. I think that's a bit of a shame because I think a lot of people forget about Ara. And obviously, I have twice already tonight on the show. But what I will say is, I actually thought that was one of the best showns of the direct. To be perfectly honest, I thought they did a really good job, especially for that genre, of actually showing what that game is. I actually think it looks pretty good, to be honest. But I think I can understand why people maybe don't look at it in the same way that they do the others, just because it's a bit more of a niche genre. But still, I did think it showed well. But do you guys have any particular thoughts on any of the other games that showed? I mean, look, I know you're looking forward to Hellblade. I know you had thoughts on Avowed. I'll leave it at that for now. But do you guys have any other thoughts on the other games that they showed off at the Developer Direct?
No.
I want to hear your thoughts on Avowed.
Thoughts on Avowed were I thought it looked visually much improved from the first showing. It actually looked very nice. The combat did not look good, but I need to play it to know if it's not good. That makes any sense. It doesn't demo well, their combat, I don't think.
Yeah, I think the concepts of what they showed sounded good, like just the ability to mix and match kind of like the different combat styles. But I agree with how it looked, not necessarily coming across particularly well.
The actual, interaction of the combat didn't look amazing, albeit I totally agree with the loadout stuff, which I think is really cool. To be honest, I don't like that kind of game. Just generally not a game that shows well, because they're not, they're not big, flashy, highly interactive RPGs. Like it's not Cyberpunk, right? You can demo Cyberpunk and it shows really well. Anything like this, if it's Avowed or Outer Worlds or Skyrim or Starfield, I don't think they particularly demo that well, just by the nature of what they are. So I'm pretty confident that's going to be a really good game, but I don't need to see too much more of it.
Yeah.
Hellblade continues to look amazing. It's getting to kind of slight piss off energy now in showcases for me, as in go away.
I think the thing is, it would only appear at the Game Awards in December. They only showed it off and then they showed it off again. And I think I said at the time, that if they're going to show the Dev Direct, the only reason they've got that in there is to give a release date. But there's no reason they couldn't have just given the release date in the Game Awards trailer. But obviously they didn't, because they wanted to show it off as part of the Dev Direct, which is fair enough. They want to have they probably want to keep with the 4 games plus maybe a 5th surprise as that format. But they really could have just done the release date trailer as part of the Game Awards showcase. I think.
Yeah, and continues to look incredible, and I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to it. I really appreciate that it is a short game.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that. I agree with that entirely.
but yeah, I don't like. I don't need to see any more. It's funny that we've seen. It seems like we've seen so much of it, and yet we've never actually seen like an extended gameplay sequence. In
Yeah,
fact, well, in fact, we did. No, I tell a lie. We did. We did. We saw the.
that was
Well,
the
I
Game
can't even
Awards
remember what
one
it
with the
was. The
giant on the
game
beach.
with a giant. Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
though in terms of pure gameplay, in terms of stuff like I don't mean in this way, but interesting stuff the player is doing. He didn't have really much of it because it was very much a very scripted sequence.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not worried about that. It won't have lots of gameplay, and it will. But it's just interesting that they've always, apart from that, they've always kind of spliced just bits of footage here and there into their trailers. But it looks amazing. I can't wait to experience it. The one thing that I will keep repeating till the end of time is I will go nuclear if they do not include an option to turn off the black box on PC. And I know that they won't. I know that it will ship on PC. There will be no option to disable that because it's partly a creative choice.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sure someone will mod it, but yeah, it's going to be annoying.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I agree. I'm really looking forward to it. As you said, I was pretty pleased when they said it was only going to be a shorter game.
Yeah.
Too many games, in my opinion, these days are 30, 40 plus hours. I think we need to kind of normalize that sort of 8 to 10 hour length game these days.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is just you charge. I know there's a reason they're charging $50 for this. I don't know why this actually be in the UK. I assume 45 or something, but they obviously recognize the fact that that shorter game, if they put a $70 price tag on it, there is kind of like a negative perception of that, and it's because of games like fucking Palworld, I think, and obviously more free to play games that have kind of warped our perception of kind of value for money. I think these days, it's funny, we was talking about Prince of Persia earlier. I think that game has that. I think a lot of people see a 2D Metroidvania at $50 and they think, well, it should be cheaper. I think unfairly so, because it's a 20 to 30 hour game, and it's a fucking excellent 20 to 30 hour game. So it's a bit of a shame that kind of I guess we perceive value like that. But then there was I don't know if you saw the leak, I think, from Inside a Game, and Tom Henderson, I think they reported maybe only had 300,000 players, which I think is criminally low for a game of that quality, to be honest. So yeah, it's interesting. So, but I'm really looking forward to it. May 31st, I think it was for that. So I'm glad it's coming out kind of in the first half of the year as well. Yeah, and that'll definitely be a showcase for the new PC, Luke. I hope.
No, well, apart from the black areas of the screen.
Yeah, apart from
show anything on that.
Yeah, I might need an OLED for that. That's the next thing. I need to upgrade my monitor
situation.
That's so
it's kind of a must. That one.
Yeah. And then for Avowed, I think yeah, I kind of agree with mostly with what you said. I don't think it showed particularly well, even if I'm looking forward to the game. I don't think the sequence with the NPC, kind of the little side quest, I think whatever they showed, I don't think that was a particularly good showing. But I just think it's because those types of things don't show good in these types of shows, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, looking forward to that. Glad that that's getting confirmed for this year, and obviously look, it's making 2024 look pretty stacked already, to be honest. So Judge, do you have any sort of other thoughts on the games that Xbox showed off?
Yeah, Avowed. Let's start with Avowed then. So this game, it's funny because I played the Outer Worlds, and at first I wasn't interested in the Outer Worlds at all because it looked a bit garish. It didn't visually appeal straight away, and it's like, oh, I'll get to it. I played that game and got hooked on it, so I finished that. This had the same kind of effect. When I saw it, I was like, it looks okay, but I'm guessing it's going to be more about, the story and the way that the characters interact with each other in Obsidian games and all that. So I think that's going to be good. I know what Luke's saying about the combat. For me, I would use the word visceral. It doesn't feel impactful when you look at the combat, but I would also say it's probably the sort of game you need to play, like you guys have said.
Yeah, just on that point,
Hellblade.
it's actually
Sorry, yeah.
one thing. I don't know if you guys can recall. The one thing that they used like a magic spell on an enemy, and it kind of just looked like a little bit of dust, and then it just kind of fell over. Kind of
Yeah,
that
they're like
bit kind of
ragdoll, didn't they?
yeah, it like really I agree entirely. It just really lacked impact on that. Yeah, sorry for interrupting on that.
No, it's a great point. Hellblade, yeah, again, I'm in that probably the first two times I saw it, I'm like, I don't need to see anything else. I played the first game, absolutely loved it. And it got to the point where just before it ends, you're thinking it kind of needs to wrap up now because it's a little bit of a draining game,
Yeah.
mentally when you're playing it. So hearing that this one's going to be roughly the same amount of time, got absolutely no problems with that. Looks beautiful. I think it's going to play pretty much exactly the same with additional combat and stuff like that. So that's going to be good to see. But yeah, just let me play that game. I don't need to see another thing on it. I just need to get in and play it and
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
immersed in the world. And wear headphones, as they always say. So,
yeah.
um, Visions of Mana. Yeah, what you guys said. Pretty much, we're best buddies now. Come and be at our direct. The Forgotten Game, Ara. That's interesting. This isn't my kind of game at all. As a developer, I looked at that and my brain just started ticking on how they coded stuff like this. It's incredible. Um, I'm not sure I've got the patience to play something like that, but it looks absolutely fantastic. So yeah, that's a quick summary on my thoughts on
Nice.
those other games, mate.
Nice. No, I appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it. Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to play all of those games sometime this year. So, when they do come out, we'll see how they land. But we'll probably touch on the state of play next, actually, because this was a bit of a chunky chunky show. Obviously, it was just last Thursday, I think. What did they show? 15 plus games over the course of 40 minutes. So it was packed, complete opposite sort of format to the Xbox Direct. Kojima got about 25 minutes of that 40 minutes. It felt like, just like it does at the Game Awards. Yeah, but I think just generally, I thought it was a good show. I thought the pacing was good. They showed off a lot of stuff. I thought it was a good state of play, and I kind of come to have lower expectations for state of plays. To be perfectly honest, I think this kind of was above expectations. So, Judd, we'll start with you, mate. Thoughts on the state of play and any standout games for you?
Yeah, well, I'm on pain of death if I don't say Death Stranding 2 was awesome. But we'll get to that in a minute. Overall, yeah, I agree. I think it's pretty much the opposite of how Xbox did it, and there's some really good stuff. Helldivers, I still maintain that looks like fun. I played the original with my brother and on co-op, slightly different, obviously, but I still think that looks really good fun. And Stellar Blade, for obvious reasons, that looks quite good. But I actually think it looks like a pretty decent game as well. The rest of the stuff, not a massive amount of stuff that stood out. Obviously, Judas for me was just, I cannot wait for that. I literally cannot wait. I need it tomorrow. And Metro Awakening for the VR appealed to me a little bit. I wouldn't mind trying that if I don't get sick. Yeah, so what else was there? Silent Hill 2. Looked okay. A little bit worried about, is it Bloober Team that's doing Silent Hill 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's coming from someone that really enjoyed the medium. I've completed
Oh,
that.
did you?
Yeah.
I played the medium. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I'm one of the odd ones. Dragon's Dogma looked amazing. Not too much to say about that. Rise of the Ronin looked okay. Took me back to the old Tenchu days a little bit. Obviously got some issues, but I think they'll sort of fix all that up. And then Death Stranding, what can you say? Absolutely stunning presentation. No idea what's going on. I still need to play the first one properly. But yeah, absolutely stunning looking game. And Fizzing, I think, was the other one from Kojima, wasn't it? The one we'll see in Next Generation.
Yeah.
So
I love this little tug of war that's going on between developers and Kojima. Kojima's like the busiest man on the planet now. He's got so many things going on. I think I can't remember where I said it. I said somewhere, but I really hope next Nintendo Direct, Kojima comes out and announces a game with Nintendo as well. Because it's just it's pretty funny how busy this guy's gonna be. He's seemingly got like an infinite amount of projects on the go.
I'm sure he's not too not doing too bad for funding. I think people are just going to be throwing money at him to
Yeah.
get these things done. The one thing
Blank
I would say
check.
about the state of play, and I think it's a pretty common theme at the minute, is the lack of first party. What they had to show looked fantastic. Don't get me wrong. Talk about Helldivers being first party because it's published by Sony. But I'm talking about stuff from their internal studios. You know what's next for those, which
Yeah.
the Xbox show showed really well. Um, I'm sure they'll be coming out with some amazing stuff. Last of Us Part 3 got announced this week. So that's going to be
Did
good. I'm
it?
sure we'll see more on. Yeah.
Did I
got
just
them.
miss something completely?
No, it didn't get announced. I think
Confirmed.
Druckmann said he had a concept
Oh,
for a potential third game, but he didn't. He stopped short of saying anything more.
Right, because their next game's not The Last of Us. I think they've previously.
I think
said,
the
haven't
indications
they?
are that it isn't The Last
Yeah,
of Us.
okay.
Yeah. But they've not said officially one way or another. But we do know that Druckmann, at least in April of 2023, had a concept of a third game, not a full story, but you know, a
Right.
direction of where it would go. Yeah.
Did this all come from this this Grounded?
Yeah, the Grounded,
documentary
which
thing?
I'm part of the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
through. By the way, it's really, if you like the first one, it's even if you didn't, go watch it because it's very, very interesting.
Nice.
I will happily take that correction, gentlemen. I would follow it up by saying it will be coming then. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a safe bet. I think,
Yeah,
I
one
think
day
that's-
you will get Last of Us 3. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I was hoping to see more on the rest of the roadmap for Sony first party. But as a show, I thought it was great. It had some really good looking games, a lot of diverse games in there. Dave the Diver made it on.
Oh man, I love
know?
Dave the Diver.
I know.
It's such a good game, man.
Good mix. There wasn't too much VR stuff. I mean, I've got VR, I like VR, but there wasn't too much VR that kind of took away from everything else. And there was a lot of, like I said, a lot of different types of games, which is nice to see him catering for a lot of different people. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good show overall.
Yeah, I thought on the subject of VR, I thought the transition from Metro to that Legendary Tales or Legend Tales or whatever it's called
jarring, wasn't it?
was
Yeah.
hilarious. Like I'm sure like they've gone for that style for a reason because obviously it could look a lot better. But like I'm really surprised they put those two VR games back to back. You would have thought maybe they would have spaced them out a little bit because it's just the visual fidelity difference between the two of them. Yeah, it was as you said, look, it was a little jarring. Yeah, I think the only ones that you've not really mentioned there, Juz, what did they show? They showed Sonic Generations remake / remaster. I'm not entirely sure which one. Xenoblade Zone Zero, which I don't have an awful lot of interest in. Foam Stars was there again, Luke.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Indy's most anticipated for 2024.
Yeah.
Foam Stars. Have to remind everybody.
What else was there? V Rising was there. I think you mentioned Dragon's
Yeah.
Dogma. Until Dawn remake, which I didn't play the original. I've got no. It seems all I keep seeing is people are kicking off that they're remaking Until Dawn, but they're not remaking Bloodborne. That's all I seem to see about.
That happens
about
every
that.
time they do a remake now.
Yeah,
Anytime
why
there's a
remake
PlayStation remake.
Bloodborne when you're making this?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then obviously the big bit at the end was obviously Death Stranding. So, Luke, do you want to talk about anything other than Death Stranding before we get?
No, I'll talk
Death
about
Stranding.
I'll talk. Everything else is a starter, an aperitif.
Yeah,
So talking about-
Boosh.
Yeah, so talking about Death Stranding. No, I thought generally as a state of play it was very good. Agree with Jodes. I would have liked it. I didn't expect them, and I think it was somewhat unreasonable for people to expect a roadmap in this presentation. But I think what I was at least expecting was maybe one first party game,
Yeah,
as in, Sony developed. I thought that might be Concord because that has an announced release of this year, and they reiterated that back in December, but they didn't show it for whatever reason. But so that was a somewhat of a disappointment because I would have liked to have seen something there. But
yeah.
I've no doubt. I think they will reveal a chunk of that at least this year because it's been too long now.
I can only assume they've got a showcase maybe in the first half of this year.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah,
basically holding because they've kind of got this format now where state of players often are largely focused on third parties, even if they're exclusive games, and then they kind of got the showcase maybe for their bigger hitters. I think, I mean, I know they've done like state of plays for some of their first party games as well, but I think they seem to be moving away from that a little bit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, they do sometimes show their first party stuff at state of plays, but it's not like a regular occurrence unless it's something that's coming. They've announced and it's coming out, and they want to show some more stuff off. But I mean, more in terms of brand new announcements. But yeah, generally I thought it was very good. It had lots of games that I'm very interested in. Helldivers 2, I'm really, really looking forward to. I really loved the first one, and this one looks very, very good. And they've just dropped some previews for this as well, because some outlets had a chance to play it, and they were all very positive about it.
Nice.
There's also some really good, just uninterrupted gameplay footage out there now, which is nice. So that comes out next week, I think.
Yeah.
Or this week coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thursday, I think. So I'm really looking forward to that. Also on PC. So Scott, you can partake if you wanted to. You can actually, join the PlayStation Nation on PC now.
I can, actually, that is actually a game I'm quite interested in, to be honest. I think I didn't play the original. I'll not lie to you, but from what I've seen, the second one, it does look really good. And from what I've heard from people who, like yourself, did play and enjoy the original, like they seem pretty excited for this. And I like shooting games. I like co-op games. So yeah, it seems right up my street. Yeah,
good price as well. I think it's $34.99 on Steam.
Oh, interesting. So they've gone for kind of the
lower pricing. So that's good.
Yeah, the Sony game on PC day and date. I know it's not first party, but I know it's published. But it's kind of one of the first games where we're seeing that sort of slight change in direction when it comes to PC games. I think it's a smart move, especially for an online game like this, to get it on PC day and date as well.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I thought that continues to look great. I think the no concern really about that, other than I think the sooner they announce a roadmap in terms of content, that would be good, because it doesn't have that at the moment. So it'd be nice to know, what are they planning to do in the future, beyond some of the stuff they've already talked about. So that looked really good. What else was there? Helldivers 2. Judas looks really good. I find it super ironic that Ken Levine left Irrational because he wanted to make smaller, different games. And full circle, 10 plus years later, the first game he's releasing is essentially BioShock 4.
Yeah.
So
I did see that sentiment a lot after the show.
So not that I don't have any qualms about that, because I think it looks really good. But it is just strange that he's kind of just come back and now he's just making BioShock 4 basically. But it looks great. It looks really, really cool. I'm interested to see, that kind of because they usually do that sort of gameplay run through, which shows you a lot of the features of the game and stuff. So I really want to see what they're building into this that separates it from some of the older BioShock games, or how it evolves that formula potentially. So it's cool. Dragon's Dogma 2 continues to look really good, really, really good. I think there's a bit of controversy about that at the moment, because it looks like the consoles won't have a performance mode potentially. So it'll just be 30 FPS, but I don't care because I'm playing it on PC. So Scott, you can say that now as well.
You know what it is, man, right? On that, I did install Starfield again. I'm actually really interested in playing Starfield properly now that I don't have to play it at 30 FPS. I do generally think that game will be a lot better. And it's got DLSS now.
It does, free now as well. Yeah.
And does the Game Pass version have it though? Because it's...
God knows.
I'll have to check that out.
Did it? I can't remember.
It has to put it in Game Pass. First party, man. But like, genuinely, that was one of the first things I didn't install. I've not checked out yet, but I just think that game will play and feel a hell of a lot better at 60 or hopefully above, compared to how it feels on console.
Like, it's still a bit shit, the game, but it does feel better.
It does feel better. It feels less shit.
It feels less shit than it would do on console. So if you want to try that, then go for it. DD2 looks great. I'm actually quite interested in the Until Dawn remaster remake. I guess it's a remake along the lines of, from what I've read, like Last of Us Part 1 or Dead Space, where it's essentially a complete visual remake. And they are introducing some new stuff into this, but it's not like it's reinventing what the first game was, or
Yeah.
any stuff like that. It's more additive. So um looks cool. Coming out this year. Also on PC day one, which I actually think is a really good choice, because that's the type of game that's perfect for streamers and communities and stuff. So
Yeah.
makes total sense. Rise of the Ronin, I saw some people were down on this, and I get why they were down, because I think from a visual perspective, it doesn't look amazing. But Team Ninja haven't been doing great visuals since Ninja Gaiden, so I don't really know what people expect visually
Yeah.
now. You know what I mean? Like,
Ninja
it's
Gaiden
not.
Black on the original Xbox, man. I still remember
Yeah,
being
it looked
floored by
incredible.
how that
Yeah,
looked at the time.
that was really the last visually impressive game, kind of cutting edge game that they've done. I didn't think this looked that bad visually. It looked better than most of their recent games, and it is an open world game. But I really like the look of it. I just thought it looked really cool. I think Judd, you said it. It gives you the sort of Tenchu vibes, but maybe more story driven. And I'm all in for that. And the combat looked. I saw someone called it. Someone mentioned it was like Sekiro of Tsushima. That's how they described it, and I thought I was pretty apt. But I'm that concept I'm into. I don't know how well it will do, but or how critically it will be received. But it looks good.
Yeah, what was that
good.
game that Team Ninja did on Xbox last not last year, the year before? Wolong. Was it Wolong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Wolong.
It reminded me very much of that.
Yeah.
Which I actually quite enjoyed at
Yeah.
the time. It had its issues, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah. So that's cool. Stellar Blade looked good. Thought it looked good visually. We don't get many character action games, so I'm quite happy that we're getting, a seemingly fairly high budget one. Silent Hill 2 did not look good at all. It looked quite the opposite of good. And it's really frustrating, that one, because on the one hand, I get what they were trying to do with the trailer, because they want to show the feature set of the game, and Silent Hill 2 has combat. The original did. But in the original, the combat was shit. Like, it wasn't very good. And I don't know whether they're going for a similar level of quality of this combat, but this one also looked really shit. It looked really placeholdery, I thought, really early, which surprised me. It seemed like from the first demonstration of it, it was further along than it potentially is. I don't really know what to say about it, other than it looked disappointing. It was a disappointing showing.
Do you know how I characterize it, Luke? Sorry to jump in.
No, go for it.
I'm just actually watching the trailer again. I would characterize the way it looks like it is presented and looks like it plays as wooden. You know, when you see a film,
yeah, very much so. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, very, kind of weirdly articulated in everything. Yeah, I totally agree. It just, like it. That's a good comparison, because if you think of something like when they did Resident Evil 2 remake, that's very fluid. Like, the animation level is very high. It's very high quality. And in this one, it really does feel like it's a studio that's always made first person games making a third person game, and they're kind of struggling with it a little bit. And that is the truth of it. Bloober are doing that. So I honestly don't know how this is going to go. I said this before. I think Bloober are generally just terrible, just not a good studio. They don't make particularly good games. They make actually quite poor games, and they're being given one of the best survival horror games ever made to try and recapture that magic. And I just don't think they're a capable studio, or able to do that. I want to be wrong. I'd love to be wrong on that, but nothing in this trailer said that was the case, that I'd be wrong. The first one I was more optimistic about, which is a bit frustrating, but there we go. And then what else? I mean, really, then it's just Death Stranding, isn't it?
Yeah.
which
I guess the
We
big.
know you've got nothing to say on that. So
yeah, I've
move
got
on, Gummy
nothing
Scott.
to say. We'll just
We're good.
wrap it up.
And, you know how Judd said earlier on, Luke. He said, he didn't have a clue about what was going on in the trailer
Yeah.
because he hasn't played the first. Can I just check? Is that the same for somebody who's completed the
No,
first game?
well,
Or did some of it make a little bit of sense to you?
well, the thing is that it all. So, like, I think this is the bit that I enjoyed the most about it because, it all did make complete sense to me. But then suddenly you would get like this stop motion puppet
Yeah.
introduced, and you'd just be, you'd be like, I was just like, what? Like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, so there are things in there, or like the cat, for example, you know, that George Miller character has that cat with the wings. It's made out of like the tar. Like stuff like that is like just baffling in the best way, but it's, you know, it's nothing that's in the first game. So I liked that, you know, even if you had played and fully understood the first game, and really the first game's story I know it outwardly seems pretty bonkers and it is wild, but it's not that you can't understand it. But it was just really cool to be surprised still by the IP, you know, and have that. I mean, that I would die for that puppet. That puppet was just the best, one of the best things I've ever seen in any game, because it's so unmistakably Kojima, because it makes no sense at all, and that's the best bit about it.
Yeah. Did you see the comparisons to Alan Wake?
Alan Wake, yeah. So someone said that he wrote himself into Death Stranding too. So yeah, I mean, there's just. I just think it was nice seeing the reception, I think, of most people online, which was actually, even if they hadn't played Death Stranding, the original, they looked at that trailer and just thought that it looked weird and wild and quite cool, you know, which is a testament really to, you know, the Kojima's team generally, how unbelievably well presented that trailer was, how well edited it was, and also obviously how visually impressive it was, because it does look amazing. So yeah, I just thought it was just, you know, there were just points where I was just there kind of laughing, you know, just how absurd it is, and it seemed to get more absurd as it went on. Like, it started out pretty low tone for Kojima, and then just rapidly ramped up.
Did it start off with the two characters being blue?
Yeah, that was near the beginning, but that's fine. That's just a color gradient. Like, that's not for Kojima. That's nothing.
Yeah, no, but why? I guess
why not?
Fair enough. It's hard.
You're
asking the
wrong questions, Scott.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I think obviously someone didn't play the first. It was just bizarre, but I think I can understand where you come from with people, and I guess I would say I'm in the same boat. I can appreciate the just fucking weirdness of the entire thing, and I think you said it in when we were talking about the state of play afterwards, Luke. I think if anything, like you got to credit him for just being fucking weird, and there's not very many people being weird these days. I think, you know, I think everything's very safe. Exactly. A lot of things could be considered safe, particularly in the AAA space, and I don't think you could say that about this game, particularly after this trailer. And I will say there was one shot in particular. I think was he on the moon?
Yeah.
Do you go to space in the first game?
No. Yeah, that was visually very striking, wasn't it? I have no idea what's happening there. I have no idea. But yeah, that was pretty incredible. Yeah, that one I love. The the Higgs, who's the character with the guitar that shoots lightning, like that whole sequence is baffling, like in the best way. That was
he in the first game?
He is in the first game. Yeah,
right,
it's Troy Baker. So seeing him and seeing how they've made him like the Joker / Crow, you know, in terms of his makeup, and then he's got a guitar that shoots lightning. It's just great. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. It looks amazing. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Kojima, a big fan of the first game. I will be interested to see what kind of reception this gets when it comes out, because I remember the first one was very divisive, and I completely understand why. I think the year it came out, it got more 10 out of 10s than any other game that was reviewed that year, but it still ended up at like a high 70s
Yeah.
Metacritic or something like that, because some people just hated it. I'm interested to see what this one will be like, particularly because it looked like there's a bigger emphasis on combat in this one.
Yeah.
You know, you saw the armory and lots of different weapons and some combat sequences here and there. And there is combat in the first game, but it isn't a focal point of it. And I think on this one, there's going to be a bit more of an emphasis on that, which is no bad thing. But it'll be interesting. But yeah.
I think on
What
that
else to
point,
say?
look, I think I think the combat, if anything, will make it a little bit more appealing to the masses in
Yeah.
a way. And I think regardless of anything else, I think just the fact that the first game exists and there's like that kind of foundation for what the game is, I think that alone will probably kind of propel the Metacritic or OpenCritic score, because I think expectations going at the game will be vastly different to what they were going
Yeah.
at the first game by people, and you'll probably have maybe more people who were fans of the first game reviewing the game than maybe people who maybe were just fans of maybe Metal Gear. I don't know, going at that one. I think it'll at least from that perspective review very differently this time around.
Yeah. And I think as well, the first game, at least the sentiment I've generally seen is people have come to appreciate it more since it's been years since, you know, it was released.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people saying, well, I didn't really give it a chance, and then I did, and then I really loved it. And, you know, with the deluge of games in the last few years that have been very by the book, very safe, as you said, you know, mechanically very similar. People played this game and were like, "Oh, this is really different. Actually, this is, you know, doing something very different," and I've appreciated that a lot more,
Yeah.
which is great. Yeah, I think it's going to be super interesting, and you know, it's got release date of next year, which
Did that
is
surprise you at all? Were you maybe expecting
no.
we could see that this year? Or does 2025 sound about right?
I think 2025 sounds about right. I thought maybe there was a possibility at the end of this year because the first game was developed in like 3 years,
Yeah,
something
I still
ridiculous.
find it
Like,
wild how quickly
yeah,
that game came out. It was like 3 years from like the studio being formed
yeah,
to
it's
coming out. It was crazy.
crazy stuff. So they're a super efficient studio, but I think in this one, it felt it was made from the trailer at least. Maybe the scale is a bit grander, so it doesn't surprise me that, you know, that it's going to be an extra year. And that's I mean, that's still very quick. You know, what's that? Still 4 years or 4 and a bit that would be. So
Yeah.
so that's, you know, for a big huge budget AAA game, that's still a very quick development cycle by today's standards. So and then I guess the last thing we got was the new IP announcement, right?
Yeah, what was it? What was it called? Fizzant.
Yeah,
Fizzant.
Fizzant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was.
typical Kojima.
You know what it is? I didn't actually see at the time watching it that they actually revealed the name on the top of the building. I'd heard people talking about Fizzant afterwards. I was like, "What the fuck's Fizzant?" And then I realized they actually showed it after the fact. So I think that was like, I get why they did it. I actually don't think that was a particularly good way to end the show.
It's a bit of a weird way to end.
Yeah, I think it was just like, oh, look at us, we got a Kojima exclusive. I think it was because I don't necessarily mind announcing games early. I'm not someone who kind of is really against CG announcement trailers. But what I don't like is just, I'm making this game kind of thing, just kind of getting it out there in that manner. Particularly, it's kind of like ending the show on it.
Yeah.
I just find that a little bit strange. I think you can announce something with CG trailer to kind of set a tone for what you're releasing, to get it out there, and then I think once you've done that, next time you got to get some gameplay out there. But I think this, you know, obviously Death Stranding 2's not out till next year. They're not even going to start it until next year.
Till after that.
So
yeah.
what's this, like 2029 maybe?
Yeah, this
if it's
is a next gen game.
Yeah, so it's I think those sorts of things, I think it's just a little bit of a weird way to end it, but like I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to demonstrate that they've got this relationship with Kojima, and he's developing games exclusively for PlayStation. And I think especially off the back of Xbox announcing the partnership at the showcase for whatever this other game is, I think they kind of just wanted to, I don't know, kind of showcase the love that they've got for Kojima and what he obviously has for PlayStation. But I thought it was a little bit of a weird thing. But obviously, espionage game by Kojima is going to get people excited, like regardless. So it was I think an easy win in that respect.
Yeah, and I do wonder if it's partly a kind of first salve or response to lack of roadmap. Just to say, I mean, I don't know, it's not their first party studio, but I wonder if it was just by the way, we've also got this coming in the future, just as another thing that's coming to our platform. So yeah, I think it was that, and obviously getting people excited about Kojima making a spiritual successor to Metal Gear, which I think people have wanted him to make for a long time. And I tell you what, it's a great time to be a Hideo Kojima fan. You get him at every Jeff show. You get him for at least 45 minutes. You get him making free games. He's making an Xbox game. These two for PlayStation. I mean, it's a great time, man.
Yeah. What was the Xbox game? OD. Yeah, and then obviously Death Stranding next year, and then it did. I imagine Death Stranding 2 will probably have some sort of additional content in some form or the other. And then then obviously whatever he ends up. Well, I was going to say whatever he ends up calling. He called it Fizzant. But one thing we've not quite touched on there, Luke, is obviously it's not just a game; it's a movie as well. Which, is interesting because obviously we know Kojima's a big fan of movies, and he likes to incorporate a lot of cutscenes into his game, as we spoke about earlier. So it's going to be interesting to see that actual transition from game into movie. And would it be unfair to say I've got a little bit of like a Quantum Break feeling about it in a way?
I think I read his heard his description of it differently. I think because it's the way he was like, because he does this sometimes, Kojima, where he's like, "Oh, it's a game, but it's also a movie." And then when he said that in this context, he then followed it up by saying, in terms of things like, the script and the costume design and the scope and actors and all this stuff. And what I read from that is not that it's sort of doing a Quantum Break thing or even an Alan Wake thing. It's that he's trying to say we want to blur the line of what can be a game these days, in terms of this is just a really big budget project that can match up to a movie. Because if you look at the context of what he lists as the things, he's really talking about the facets of this game being movie-like, cinematic, blockbustery. So I think it's actually going to be even like a more for Kojima, that is. I think it's going to be a traditional game in the way that Metal Gear was, but the same way that Metal Gear was for the time, it was really pushing what video games were doing in terms of their story, in terms of their design, all of that sort of stuff. So I think that's what he means. And if you contrast that to something like when he talks about OD, he's very clear on that game. That's very different conceptually from a normal game. That's going to be probably even more creative than Death Stranding 2. Something smaller but pretty wacky by comparison. We don't exactly know what that is, but it's very very creative. So yeah, I think that's the impression I got from his description. But who knows? I could be wrong. It could be like you play it for an hour and then you get like a 2-hour feature
There's a
film.
3-hour
Kojima,
feature
isn't
film
it?
slap bang in the middle.
Yeah. I just don't know. You just don't know with Kojima. It could be It could all be puppets, right? Could you maybe he's
Puppets all
using
the way down.
it's
That's what
puppets?
we're
Yeah,
saying.
everything's a puppet in Physant.
Yeah.
So I don't
I
know.
kind of hope it's like in the style of Wallace and Gromit. To be honest,
That would be great.
So yeah,
Yeah.
or maybe the entire thing is just stop motion, or sort of something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I just kind of maybe I kind of looked into it too much, but just obviously it seemed to be shot at Sony Pictures. Obviously, they kind of panned out afterwards, and they were at Sony Pictures Studios or whatever. And I just assumed it was going to be like they're developing a game, and the movie's going to be alongside it. I kind of got that impression. Obviously, I
Yeah.
very,
I think
much wrong.
I think he did say as well that there were again, this is where his like language is a bit weird sometimes, but I think you're right, as in he did say there will be it's gonna be cross media, as in not
Yeah.
the game necessarily, as in that it won't have film, or filmed sequences, but the intention is for this to have, a separate film that
Yeah.
they'll do or show or whatever, in the same way that Death Stranding is now cross media because they're making a film for Death Stranding. So
Making a film for Death Stranding.
I
They
did
are.
not know that.
Did you
Does it come with an
really?
instruction book? I missed this, I think.
Yeah. How have you? But I think that did you get confused because you think Death Stranding already is a film?
Well,
Is how
That
it
might
is.
be it. That might be it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's being produced with A24, who are the guys that did oh god, what did they do? They did, I think they were one of the studios that worked on Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh yeah, yeah. Good film.
They've done other stuff as well. Lots of TV shows. They did Hereditary, I remember that. So a proper legitimate movie studio that takes on quite art housey projects.
Oh, okay.
So which is a good fit. No details other than that known about who's going to be in it, if they'll use Norman Reedus or whatever. But yes, they are officially developing a film.
Interesting. It's going to be. I'm curious as to like how whether it is quite as bonkers as what we've seen with like Death Stranding 2, or whether before that medium they maybe have to tone
You got to go whole hog, man.
I agree. I think you have to if you're going to do that, but I wonder if they will actually do it.
Well, look, like one of his heroes is George Miller, right? And he made Mad Max Fury Road, and that is just an absolutely bonkers film in terms of concept. So there's no reason why you can't have BB in there, let's get the stop motion puppet in early. Let's get that in the first film. Like, let's just go all in.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting at the very least. I think regardless of how you feel about Kojima and his games, you can't disagree that it's not at least going to be interesting. See how all these projects pan out. So, Judge, I did want to come back to you. Kojima espionage, does that tickle your fancy, Matt?
It definitely tickles my whipple, as they say in somewhere. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it does actually. I mean. Is this gain okay now, by the way? I've pumped it up for Indy because, he's always complaining about gain. So we need to know. But yeah, I think for sure it's going to be very interesting. I'm someone who absolutely loved Quantum Break. Everything about it, loved it. The only worry I've got is I've got a few worries, of course, with the amount of weirdness we've been talking about. But if it's, depending on how the movie aspect of it's done, how are people going to react to the movie? And when I said, does it come with an instruction book? That's a concern. If they do it in a way where it's kind of taking elements, like Luke said, cross media stuff, then that would probably work. As far as the game itself, yeah, every time I say I'm really excited about it, I start to think about things that might kill it. And that's kind of odd because I was a massive Metal Gear fan back in the day on the original PlayStation and PS2. So I can't wait to see what he does, especially looking at Death Stranding. If you can imagine like a modern day espionage game in that engine, Decima, isn't it? Decima engine.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be absolutely superb. And if there's anyone that can take gaming, movies, and that sort of entertainment cross I can't think of the words anymore. I was going to say cross-platform, but you know what I mean. Across those genres, whatever mediums. There you go.
Yeah,
I think it's probably him. So with the Xbox side, OD and the web side of stuff and cloud and AI and all that kind of thing is going to be fascinating. And I think this is going to be fascinating. My only issue with it is that we've got so long to wait again, because it's going to be another 5-6 years probably from now.
yeah.
It'll be a next gen game. Indy's happy with the volume, so I won't
Thank you
get
very
my
much, Andy.
weekly beating off him. So
He's put his
Thanks for
whip
that,
away.
mate. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It was Indiana Jones. You know, there's a lot of commonalities there. So, but yeah, I'm very excited for Fizzin. I think it could be groundbreaking in a lot of ways. I do have concerns about how it could be accepted by a traditional audience, but I think if anyone can do it, Kojima can. It's very exciting, in my opinion.
Nice. Yeah, and then I guess the only other thing that they kind of also teased at the end is they'll have another state of play in the not too distant future. Obviously, they covered Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is out. That's out in February, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
22nd or something.
Yep.
Or was that the review embargo I read?
I think 22nd is review embargo.
Yeah.
I think game's like 26 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and not to make this about me and my new PC again, but I do really want to get back to Final Fantasy VII Remake, actually, which is something. No, what is? I probably should play that on Steam Deck. I hear it plays pretty well on the Steam Deck, actually, so I might check that out. But yeah, so we know we've got another state of play coming in the not too distant future. Normally, when they have a game-specific state of play, they don't just show the game, I don't think. Luke, if you
I
can
can't
recall
remember on it, because I heard this, but I can't remember the last game-specific state of play they had.
Yeah, I think.
But it
think
does
they had one
spring
for,
to
like,
memory
Horizon or something like that, maybe. But and I'm pretty sure like they had other things there. That was like the main event. It was only like 20 minutes maybe, and then like 10 of it was on Horizon or something, and the other 10 was maybe on some other thing. So it'll be interesting if they've got other things there, or whether it will be dedicated to Rebirth. I could very easily see it being dedicated to Rebirth, though. I think that's enough to get people excited.
It's interesting because the one of the places that leaked Death Stranding 2 appearing at the next state of play and its subtitle.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about that.
Yeah. This is Kojima. He's not a master of being subtle at all. But yeah, that place, they basically said, they're going to show Death Stranding in the next 15 days. They were quite specific, and it's going to be called Death Stranding 2 on the beach, and there's going to be a trailer and stuff. And obviously that was all true. And they also said that within 15 days it would be a Concord reveal, which everybody assumed would be at the state of play. So I do wonder if that's perhaps right. I would be still quite surprised if it wasn't just all Final Fantasy, but maybe we get something extra, like and I'll go back and I see if I can find the old state of plays where they had just one game and see what they actually did. But I do recall, I'm sure it has happened before, where you get like 1-2 extra things at these state of plays that are dedicated to, a particular project. But I'm not going to hold out hope for it, because I'm not. The thing is as well, I'm not going to watch the Rebirth one because I don't need to see or want to see anything else on that game. I'm going to buy it. I'm really looking forward to it, and I think spoiling it. Square are always notorious for really revealing way too much in the lead up to the release of these Final Fantasy projects. So I won't be watching it. There are rumors that they're going to drop a demo, which I'm very excited about.
Okay, interesting.
But beyond that, I will not be watching it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I was speaking to a friend about that, and he said exactly the same things. I've got no interest in watching it, and the main reason was because I think there was a particular maybe trailer that they released for the original, just 7 remake, that apparently spoiled a significant portion of it.
Yeah.
So he was like, nope, I've just got no interest. And in fact, he was disappointed that they didn't want it all, because obviously even if he doesn't watch it, the internet is the internet, and conversations will and things will spread. So but obviously I don't blame him for doing it. It's one of the biggest releases of the year, so they've kind of got to do. But yeah, I'll be interested to see if we get anything else from that. And then, as I said earlier, I'm sure we'll inevitably get some sort of PlayStation showcase at some point this year. We normally get a Nintendo Direct in February, I believe, or at least early in the year. So there's probably a few more things to look forward to in the not too distant future. So, but gentlemen, I think what I'll probably do is finish up the conversation now, if that's all right with you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you both. I'm sure Luke could probably go on for even longer about Death Stranding. Maybe next time, Juds, if we can get you on, maybe we can have played a little bit Death Stranding. And
yes,
I think that be good?
Owe it to him.
Just
wouldn't that be
an
great?
entire episode just talking about Death Stranding.
We just talk about how great, how much we all enjoyed it.
We can call it Luke Stranding on the beach.
Yeah, so that we can maybe do that. Maybe that's what I get some footage on instead of Palworld next time. But like I said, appreciate both you guys here. Luke, obviously, as always, appreciate you being part of the show. Judd's first guest on this show, mate. So I appreciate you joining us as well. Obviously, you can catch us all probably over on the Indie Gamers podcast, hopefully in the not too distant future. I know we've been trying to get a date in for a little while, so hopefully it won't be too long until we next get an Indie Games podcast. But yeah, thank you very much both for joining us. Thank you everybody for tuning in. And with that said, we'll let people get on with their Sunday evenings. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and take care.